$33.4 billion for AES. Analysts are calling it a golden era for infrastructure megafunds.
Golden era? More like capital deployment panic. They have way too much dry powder and nowhere else to park it.
Oh, come on. A $33 billion power play is not parking money. That is buying the entire parking garage.
I need to see the debt filings before I buy that narrative. But first, are we really talking about Danone buying liquid food for tech bros? The rundown. $10.8 billion for an insurance underwriter. Zurich is not messing around with this Beazley deal.
Massive splash. But honestly, I am more fascinated by Cintas dropping $5.5 billion to buy out UniFirst.
The uniform wars.
Exactly. It sounds boring until you realize Cintas is basically building a monopoly on dudes named Gary, dropping off floor mats and fire extinguishers. $5.5 billion to corner the market on industrial laundry. Respect.
I respect the cash flow, but the multiple is aggressive. Same with QXO closing the $2.25 billion acquisition of Kodiak Building Partners. Court Square just flipped that for a massive premium.
Good time to be selling building materials. Speaking of aggressive premiums, did you see Ecolab picking up CoolIT Systems? $4.75 billion for liquid cooling.
It is so smart. Ecolab usually makes industrial chemicals, but everyone is staring at the AI chip makers right now. The actual bottleneck is thermal management. You literally cannot run next-gen data centers without liquid cooling. Ecolab read the footnotes on the AI boom.
Okay, speaking of reading the tea leaves, the consumer gossip today is wild. Whispers say Danone is closing in on a $1 billion deal for Huel.
$1 billion for powdered food.
It is a trendy meal replacement, Maya. The wellness brands are buzzing.
It is chalky gruel for tech bros who forget to chew. $1 billion is absurd. Look at the unit economics of these direct-to-consumer protein brands. They bleed marketing cash just to acquire a single customer.
Oh, come on. Huel has insane recurring revenue. People subscribe and literally live on the stuff. Danone desperately needs a younger demographic, and $1 billion is pocket change to them.
I will believe it when I see the margin profile. Danone buying an Instagram hype cycle does not magically make it a profitable asset.
You just hate fun.
I hate paying a massive multiple for oatmeal dust, but fine, let us talk about real money. Because all of these look like rounding errors compared to the monster infrastructure play that just dropped.
Oh yeah, the big one. Global Infrastructure Partners and EQT teaming up to swallow AES Corp.
$33.4 billion.
A golden era for infrastructure megafunds deploying massive dry powder. We need to talk about how they are structuring that debt. The big one, $33.4 billion. I just need to say the number out loud to actually process it.
It takes a minute to sink in.
GIP and EQT teaming up to swallow AES Corp. I mean, my old managing director would be doing cartwheels down the hallway right now. This is the absolute definition of a marquee mega deal.
It's massive. But honestly, I'm looking at this $33.4 billion and wondering how much of it is strategic brilliance and how much is just two giant infrastructure funds desperate to deploy capital before their LPs start asking questions.
Oh, come on. You aren't buying the whole golden era of infrastructure narrative? Market analysts are practically weeping with joy over this.
I'm allergic to the phrase golden era, and I'm definitely allergic to the phrase dry powder.
But they have it. These mega funds raised historic amounts of cash over the last few years. They have to put it to work. AES gives them global power assets, renewables, traditional utilities. If you want to play the energy transition, this is the monopoly board you want to own?
Sure, if you completely ignore the debt load they're taking on to buy that board. I was digging through the early disclosures this morning. The leverage here is going to be spectacular.
That's just the cost of doing business when you buy a global energy giant. You structure the debt, you syndicate it, you move on.
Spoken like a true former banker. You just syndicate it. Easy.
Exactly. We love a good syndication.
Except borrowing costs aren't what they were 3 years ago, Nate. You can't just wave a wand and make the math work on a $33 billion buyout. I'm watching the regulatory filings tomorrow like a hawk just to see how this debt structuring actually shakes out. If they're overlevered on legacy coal assets, this gets ugly.
The math works because global power demand is going vertical. AI data centers alone are eating the grid. EQT and GIP know they have a captive market for every single megawatt AES produces. They aren't worried about the debt.
I agree on the demand side. I disagree on the execution. Teaming up sounds great in a press release. The Avengers of infrastructure.
I was literally just thinking, they're the Avengers of infrastructure.
Of course you were. But co-leading a deal this size means co-managing the headaches. Who actually calls the shots when a major utility project goes sideways in South America? Voices.
So the analysts are out in full force today. I saw one note calling this $33.4 billion AES buyout the dawn of a, quote, golden era for infrastructure mega funds deploying massive dry powder.
Golden era. Please. I read that same note and rolled my eyes so hard I saw my optic nerve. It is not a golden era, Nate. It is a panic to deploy. GIP and EQT are sitting on mountains of cash and the clock is ticking on their fee structures.
Oh, come on. You do not just drop $33 billion on an energy giant because your timer went off. They see the grid constraints. They see the data center power demand.
I am not saying AES is a bad asset. I am saying the analysts are spinning an unspent capital problem as some visionary macro thesis. Show me the debt structuring on this before we crown them kings of the grid.
Fair enough. We will see how much leverage they actually stack on this thing. But speaking of visionary theses, healthcare commentators are absolutely losing it over Gilead.
The Auro Medicines deal, $2.2 billion.
Exactly. Suddenly, every desk analyst is an expert on T-cell engager programs for autoimmune diseases.
It is a smart pivot for Gilead. They desperately need the pipeline. But honestly, the gossip that actually caught my attention today is way further down the food chain. Consumer sector.
Wait, are you talking about the sludge?
It is not sludge, it is a trendy protein meal. But yes, Danone is supposedly closing in on a $1 billion buyout of Huel.
$1 billion for the official drink of stressed out crypto traders. That is amazing. My old MD used to live on that stuff.
If Danone actually pays a 10-figure valuation for Tech Bro Gruel, I will personally drink it on our next recording.
I am holding you to that. But before we get to your new liquid diet, we need to talk about what is hitting the SEC desk tomorrow morning. Spill the tea. I am telling you, the wellness space is losing its collective mind over this Danone whisper.
$1 billion for Huel. $1 billion for the Tech Bro meal replacement sludge.
It's not sludge, Maya. It's nutritionally complete. And honestly, Danone sniffing around for a $1 billion buyout makes total sense. They need that direct-to-consumer cult energy.
Cult is the right word. But come on, Nate. You put a banker fleece on a protein shake and suddenly it's worth $1 billion? Danone is a legacy dairy company. Integrating a trendy, influencer-heavy brand like Huel is going to be a culture clash nightmare.
I completely disagree. Danone knows exactly how to scale consumer packaged goods. Huel has the customer acquisition engine. Danone has the global supply chain. It's a match made in heaven. Plus, I had the chocolate flavor for breakfast.
Oh, that explains so much about your energy today. You're running on fake sugar and venture capital.
It's highly efficient.
Right. Well, while you're drinking your tech sludge, the defense circles are actually talking about something real. Onda's expanding with this worldview acquisition.
Yeah, the aerospace tech consolidation wave is finally happening.
Exactly. Everyone was waiting for the first domino to fall. Onda's grabbing worldview is going to force all these mid-tier aerospace players to either pair up or get eaten.
Eat or be eaten. Speaking of getting eaten, we need to talk about the absolute monster in the room. $33.4 billion.
The AES Corp buyout.
Yes, GIP and EQT teaming up for the biggest power play of the year. I want to see the early regulatory filings tomorrow just to figure out how they're structuring that massive pile of debt. Tomorrow's radar.
I am refreshing Edgar tomorrow morning for the AES Corp filings. $33.4 billion is huge, but I need to see how GIP and EQT are actually structuring this debt.
You know, it's just going to be a mountain of leverage. The golden era of infrastructure funds means they have to deploy that dry powder somehow.
Leverage is fine, but in this rate environment, if they're floating too much of it, the math gets ugly fast. I want to read the covenants.
Spoken like a true footnote junkie. While you do that, I'll be watching the consumer gossip. Have you heard Danone might buy Huel for $1 billion?
Wait, really? The tech bro protein sludge?
Hey, don't insult the sludge. $1 billion for liquid meals is a banker's dream pitch.
I need to see their customer retention numbers before I believe $1 billion valuation on that.
We'll see if the rumors hold up. We also have Gilead formally closing on Oro Medicines for $2.2 billion tomorrow.
Right. Their big pivot to T-cell engagers. Let's see if the market actually rewards them for it when the opening bell rings.